Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I was in a situation where I was, being abused, and I did call, and I called the police and tried to file a police report. What I'll tell you is that when they showed up, they were not compassionate. It was not the experience that I expected. I called, because I was afraid and because I was feeling very vulnerable, and I thought that I was going to have, police show up that were going to be supportive, and that's not what happened at all. In fact, when I told them what was happening to me, and, that I had to defend myself because I was pregnant at the time, they were basically like, oh, well, we need to arrest you as well. And I'm like, what? That's not the response I expect. Of course, they did not. I think it was just kind of like a fear tactic that they used. So what I'll say first off is that if you can request a female officer, I think that's the first thing that I would have done differently, because the female officers are the female officers are a little bit more compassionate, and if they have to check you for anything, they're going to have to call a female officer anyway. But I know that the times that I had to speak with a female officer, they were a lot more understanding. Not all of them. Now, some of them are really rough around the edges, but it was a better, I would definitely recommend trying to contact or ask for a female officer instead of speaking to the male officers, because they can be so tough and they can make you feel even more vulnerable. And later on, when I'd explained to an attorney what happened to me, his response even was that I should have stood up for myself better. And I'm thinking to myself, at that moment in time, when I'm standing in front of police officers who are essentially telling me that they may or may not arrest me, my thought in my head is not, oh, let me defend myself. My thought is, let me back down and, keep quiet, because, I might get arrested here.
Right.
And because they were making me feel even more of a victim than I was when I contacted them. Like, it was a horrible experience. So then when you file a police report, it takes a couple days for it to be recorded.
Process,
so you can't just go get it right away. So I went the next day to file the restraining order. And one thing that I had to experience when I got there was that my abuser was there at the courthouse whenever I went. So that was another, crappy
obstacle situation. Yeah.
So I had to ask for security, and security was even rude to me. They were like not helpful to me at all, because I was like scared. I was shaking. I was like terrified and shaking, and just wanted somebody to sit with me, and nobody was being supportive, still up until this point. So one thing that I did do, though, is I wrote everything down and typed everything out before I showed up, so that it was very clear and concise. Because if I had to sit there, they give you a pin and they sit you at a table, a whole bunch of other people that may or may not be.
It's like you're being interrogated. You're like, oh shit, am I the one being,
You feel like you don't feel like a victim. You don't feel like you're being treated like they make you feel like worse. It's horrible. So then, you can wait for the judge to read it and to sign off on it so that you can get a temporary restraining order. So I went in with the judge. I let him read everything I wrote, and I did write a pretty thorough history so that it all made sense as to why all this stuff was happening and why I'm still in the relationship and everything. And the judge was very compassionate, thank God. He was like the first person who was super compassionate to me. I think he knew my abuser's family, so he was, also understanding because of that. And he signed off on it. And so for the next 2 weeks, I had a, temporary restraining order until we could go to court. Now, when you go to court, it's usually exactly 2 weeks from the date that you file. You do not need an attorney to go. My abuser had an attorney when he showed up, and that attorney and him tried to bamboozle me into making decisions that I wouldn't have otherwise made if it weren't for them. And part of it was just because they wanted to get out of the courthouse. Like,
right, get out.
The whole day, because you have to wait. You have to sit around and wait the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
But
so your number's called.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, till your name's called. But what I'll tell you is that, when you do that, when you go, you really need to have as much support as you can so that you feel secure, and you feel, when you're speaking to the judge and when you're talking to the people in the courtroom, you feel good. Like, so bring a friend, bring a good friend, bring a family member, bring somebody that can be supportive, during this time. or to talk even to the judge. Bring as much documentation as you can. If you have a police report, if you have pictures of anything, if you have pictures of physical abuse, bruises, if you have pictures of like broken things inside of your house, anything, if you have text messages, text messages and email message, any of that stuff all counts. Like they look at all of that in the big picture whenever they make their decisions.
So true.
But don't be afraid to go in without an attorney. Most people do, and they'll actually favor you if you don't have an attorney. So it's not really something to be afraid of, because the judge is they'll be fair. They'll be compassionate towards you if you don't have an attorney with you and the other party does. They'll be a lot more understanding. And you can tell the attorney and you can tell the people in the courtroom, I don't know what I'm doing. This is what I need to happen, or that you can be very honest with them and let them know, like, I've never done this before. Can you help me walk through it? Like, I'm scared. You can tell them whatever you need to tell them, and they're usually pretty compassionate about that. But yeah, and then the restraining order is in place for a year. So after the year is up, if you still feel like you need a restraining order, then you have to go and renew it. But usually by that time things have settle down or whatever. But
and the abusers found someone else to prey victim on.
Right, yeah. And so the other thing that Jillian wanted me to talk about is kind of, how she helped me and how I ended up in that situation. And the thing that I guess that most don't understand is, like, how could somebody like me end up in a situation like that? Like, like how in the world, if you're so, whatever, how would you have ended up with somebody like that? And what I'll tell you is that it's kind of like Chinese water torture. Like this person, this abuser, when we first met, worshiped the ground I walked on. Like we were, made for each other. Like I can't even tell you how perfect the relationship appeared to be. And it wasn't until a few months after, more permanent situation where I started to see little red flags pop up that, were maybe not visible before. And it's like, just these little things every day, little comments, little, cut downs, little whatever, until the point where you don't even know who you are anymore. And that person is not the same person that they were when you met them. And, by that time, you're just in a completely different world of depression and everything else. Like, that's the only way that I can describe it to somebody who hasn't been through it. Is like, why'd you let that happen? How could you allow that to happen? It's not something that you allow to happen. It's something that slowly happens over time, and you just don't even see it happening to yourself. But what Jillian helped me to do is, because she was doing holistic stuff at the time, and I would go to see her from time to time, is that she would remind me of who I was, and she would remind me of how great I was and all the talent that I had and all the stuff. So she just kept planting seeds in my head that would make me remember, okay, this is who I am. I am not this person that's broken. I am not this person that's, worthless and lazy and all these things that my, abuser put in my head over a long period of time. And let me tell you, after a long period of time, when you're hearing crappy stuff like that,
you start to believe it.
You believe it. And so Jillian kind of helped reverse that until I got to the point that I was strong enough to make the decision to leave. And so I finally did. And thank God for her, and thank God that she's speaking out, like she is now, so that other women can know that they can do this and they can get out of these bad situations. And thank God that she wrote this book that she wrote, and it's a step by step on, what she does on a daily basis. So Jillian, I guess I'll let you talk about your book.
All right.
So that I can know, more about you and what you do and how you're helping women.
Thank you so much. And thanks for doing this. This is it took us 100 times. This is really funny.
I know.
And Domination Nation, right? Like we're taking a boot camp class, Epic Epriel, I believe her name is. I'll have Teresa tag her on this, but she has motivated all of us, including our other friend Salima, to get out and do these live feeds. But thank you, Teresa. I'm gonna hang up with you and I'm gonna finish it up. Okay. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So we heard from her. We heard that it is extremely challenging to get out of these relationships, and it takes steps. The first step she talked about was asking for a woman police officer to take your statement. It's important. She did talk about not all women are as compassionate. There are some rough-edged people that, you know, I mean, it's their job, guys. I can't imagine, like, oh my goodness, like all the false, you know, reports, because there's crazy people out there. I mean, hands down, I can attest to that, you know, and they're probably like, what is this person doing here again? I said that on the other live feed, but I'm pretty sure the police department and the clerk of court were like, oh no, here she comes again, you know, but I did what I had to do to protect my kids and to protect myself. Again, filing your police report, asking for a woman to take your testimony. Teresa talked about it takes a couple days in order for that to get processed, but there's other steps that you can take. You can get a protective order, which is a piece of paper. I had a couple of them right here. You fill out. I suggested in the last live feed that we couldn't do, to bring it home, write it down, be concise, be clear about what had happened. And I tell people, have your notebook, write down every event, and when you're ready to leave, you have it, and so you can document it, because when you're having trauma, sometimes you forget, sometimes you just don't even want to like relive it, you know. So it's important to make sure that you have your notebook and like a timeline, so you know you can be factual, because the law allows the other person and it gives them the right to say some bullshit if they're not guilty. But you know, if you're correct and you have pictures and you have documentations, you have witnesses, you have a stronger case, you know. And then getting your protective order, like I said, making sure that you bring that home before you file it, because once you have it filed and you have everything written down, you're actually able to wait around for the amazing judges. Every time I had a restraining order, I was always granted it, and they were super amazing, the judges out in Lafayette. And again, shout out to the woman, the police department in Lafayette, for making my life easeful when she would take my statements. She's a super sweet lady. I wish I knew her name, but I can't think of it. Super great though. Again, this is hard stuff to talk about. When I talk about it, I mean, I feel like I'm a deer in headlights. Like, people are like, she's not really talking about it. Yes, I'm talking about it. I'm not going away. I want judges. I want attorneys. I want nurses. I want police officers. I want EMT to understand the psyche of a victim. It's hard enough that they're coming out about it. Come on, shed some light and some compassion. Be the light that they're looking for. A majority of the time, for instance, people go back. They go back. And you know what? They go back because they're like, you know what? I don't want to be abused by a police officer, or I don't want to be abused by someone who thinks that I'm lying. And your brain and your mind, you kind of go a little kooky. So, I mean, my goal and my passion, yes, I have this great product, Mommy Go Bag, that's about to be released, but my passion is to help men and women. I want them to be able to create a plan. I want them to get okay here. I want them to be okay with themselves. I want them to see the amazing God brought us to be. I mean, honestly, without my faith and without spending time for the Lord and allowing Him to work through me, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. And all I can say is, if you read my book, I'll help you. I will step-by-step directions of what you should do, what abuse looks like, because abuse is not just physical abuse. Abuse is mental. Abuse is emotional. It's sexual. It's spiritual. Guys, it could be in your own family. You could be being abused emotionally by a family member right now, and you don't even know it. It's all a choice. And it's about what's right for you and about what's right for your family. And if you know what that is, then you should choose it. Everything is a choice. Choosing unkindness, choosing ugliness. I want to choose happiness. I don't want to choose the mess. I don't want to sit in shit. I sat in shit way too long. And I'm not going to allow anyone else to sit in shit, because you know what? You start to stink. And I don't want to be around someone that stinks like shit, because I'm sure I stunk for a very long time. And again, I just want everyone to feel and be the infinite being that they have chosen, or what God has chosen you to be. And I do affirmations every morning. I get on my hands and knees and pray at night, thanking God to be alive and thanking for the life that I have now. It could be a lot worse. I was at Lucinda Cross's Big Ask, and someone asked what I did, and I share with them that I'm an advocate for women in domestic violence relationships. And they're like, it's about time someone starts talking about it. It is not something anyone wants to talk about. Everyone's so scared to talk about it. God forbid you talk about that your husband's beating you. Well, he's beating you, and you probably should get out. Because you know what? If you have little kids, they see it. And you know what? I don't want my son to go around beating up on women. I don't want little Lonnie to berate or, put somebody down. No, I want him to love people. I want him to be like Jesus, and it took me, and it took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of grit to come out and be like, I'm not going back. I'm not taking this. And apparently I have a problem with taking on people. But again, I'm Jillian Coburn. That's my spill today. I could talk probably for hours. We're at 20 minutes and we're supposed to only do 9-minute videos, but that's it. If you have anything you want to share, you have a story, I would love to have you on. I would love to hear what we can do differently. I'm about making changes higher up. I want the law to be different. I want compassion. I want people to be trained on what is going on with the victim. I want the victim to get some help. Maybe they should get help for a year, and maybe they should seek counseling for the trauma that has occurred, because post-traumatic stress is real. It's not just war, it's violence, it's emotional things. And I'm triggered all day. I'm a walking trigger girl. And I have to really get right, and I need to balance myself. I have to take a deep breath and be like, all right, Jillian, don't let that affect you. That's not your stuff. So I'll end with 2 things. Here's a tool, and it's from Access Consciousness, and you can find it on Access Consciousness. What is light? So if you ask a question, oh, is this person right for me? And you may get like a gut feeling inside you, and you're like, oh, that's your stomach saying that, no, that person probably isn't right for you. If it's light, it means that, oh, sure, jump on it, but again, get to know your partner. Make sure that they don't have a violent past, because on another live stream, I'll talk about somebody that I married and how my mom came home and she brought me home a rap sheet. And it's just like, when we're in a vulnerable place, guys, sometimes we just really are not thinking. And I just want to make sure that it's October and it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, that we get right and we really understand what is going on and the steps that we can take. And I hope this has helped somebody. If it didn't help you, I hope you enjoyed laughing at Teresa and I coming on and off of live feed. Again, thank you, Epic April, for pushing me to do this. Thank you, Vanessa, for always being the amazing person you are. And thank you, Joy. Thank you, Lucinda. The list goes on. And these aren't people in my community. These are people across states, and they're willing to help. And I'm that girl in Texas. I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to be your voice. Break that silence that we're so afraid to talk about. Because if you talk to me, I'm most likely going to talk about domestic violence. And I might make you feel uncomfortable, because you know what? I really want the best for everyone. I want everyone to be that light. So again, Jillian Coburn, I'm signing off. I hope you guys create a wonderful day. I have to hurry up and put dinner in and then go to Austin for the 10th time today. How does life get any better than this? And what else is possible? Bye, guys.